Well, Billy Joel to start off the morning here. All right, closing the gender pay gap. Currently, women earn an estimated 79 cents for every dollar a man earns. That's according to the Census Bureau. But the state of Massachusetts recently took a bold step to reduce that disparity, barring employers from asking salary-related questions, salary history questions. Let's bring in attorney Christi Kunzig. All right, Christi, first of all, what do you make of that 79 cents on the dollar?
I think there are a lot of factors that go into that, and I don't really think there is as big of an issue as it sometimes seems that there is. I think that women tend to take time off, to have kids and raise their children.
All right, so what do you make of this move by the state and the key features of this law? Your take on it?
I really don't think this is going to be successful. I think the aim of this is to bring women's salary up to where men's salary are, but I think what it's going to wind up doing is actually bring men's salary down to women, since they're not allowed to ask any history. And I think the biggest impact is going to really be for the millennials. It's going to trap them and limit the positions that they're really able to apply for. Since they're coming out into the workforce and just starting out, they don't have as much prior experience. They're going to have to go for positions where the salary is something that's feasible.
Wonder what happens in the workplace when employees can all of a sudden freely talk about their salary. What do you think happens?
Well, yeah, you got to be careful about that, especially because when you're jockeying for promotions, and I think actually on the equal pay side, it doesn't have to do with starting jobs or when you're applying for a new one, because the employer already knows what they're going to pay people, right? They're in a tight range. They've got an open search. This actually has to do with promotions on women getting 79 cents on the dollar, 87 cents, whatever it is. Women are getting passed over for that, and I think that's the issue. And that's not, the bill doesn't address that issue, which actually does need to be addressed, because as we alluded to, you know, when you start going up the chain, you start to see more men are on boards and in the C-level suites.
And we are seeing other states take action to try to close the gap. Yeah. Nobody really seems to have the secret sauce here.
Well, I don't know that there is one-size-fits-all solution to this. I mean, my concern is that you introduce a whole other set of issues, you know, potentially, I mean, you highlighted a couple that are unforeseen. And, you know, so this is kind of a hallmark, I think, of a lot of progressive states. And this is because this is a wedge issue. You know, if you don't support this, then, you know, is it because, you know, you don't think women should be paid as much as men? Of course not. And so, but this is pure politics. We'll see. You know, luckily it's not at the federal level at this point. We're going to test it out at the state level.
Hillary Clinton's promising that.
I know.
Promising equal pay.
Yeah, but she's going to have to work with Congress to actually, you know.
Oh, really? Because, you know, if you follow the executive order and the ruling from on high that you've gotten out of the Obama White House, never put anything past a Democrat.
Fair enough.
Right. I think the intent of the law is great, but I don't think this is something that's actually going to work out and give them the...
Have any other states had success with this? I mean, Maryland passed a law requiring equal pay for comparable work. Last year, California, a law that requires employers to be able to prove that they pay workers of both genders equally for substantially similar jobs. I mean...
And some of the problems they've been having with that is defining those terms. How do you prove that what you're doing is comparable? And they're broad terms, so, you know, that's a struggle, too.
And how do you take into account, you know, bonus structures and that type of thing? You know, I mean, if one employee is performing ahead of another, how do you take that into account? Yeah.
Right, that's really not covered in these laws as well.
Yes.
There's already a federal Equal Pay Act on the books that was passed in the 60s. And so, again, how do you order companies to pay? How do you order them to pay just based on gender?
Right. There's a lot of confusion.
About solutions. It's a wedge issue because it gets people to the polls, obviously. I mean,
well,
yeah, you're right.
It is a political talking point, but as far as it being a political talking point, it is coming from a certain age group. That 18 to 35-year-old age group is really pushing for this. It's in polling, it shows up as a top concern. How might this affect them?
I think it's really going to be detrimental for them. I think the fact that you can't go in and negotiate your salary is going to hurt them because, again, they're coming in, they're just entering the workforce, they don't have all that experience. So if the company's saying, okay, here's our position and this is the salary we have to offer to everybody, they might not really be financially feasible to hire.
Just one thing I want to point out in terms of the technology companies, because they love to crow about how the men and women in their companies get paid the same amount. Well, but women represent a small minority of the overall employment at these companies, particularly at the executive level and at the management level. So they're bragging about paying them the same, but then women who represent more than half the workforce represent a minority at these tech companies, which quite frankly is shameful.
And politically, we talked about Hillary Clinton, but remember Ivanka Trump, when she took to the stage at the RNC, made a big point of talking about her father, praising her father for gender equality in the workplace. So. It was a big conversation there as well. Christi Kunzig, thank you for joining us
Thank you.
this morning. Good to have you.